Muslim migrant attacks Jesus statue, learns brutal lesson after pushing Christians too far. When a migrant spotted a beautiful statue of Jesus Christ in front of a church, he proceeded to destroy the religious symbol while screaming that it's his duty. However, soon after Christians saw what he did to their beloved icon, the migrant learned what happens when you push your hosts too far. Although Muslims in the West claim that Islam is a religion of peace and tolerance, their own Quran proclaims that they are to wage war against the unbelievers until they have wiped out all other religions. Disturbingly, these so-called moderates have even convinced many ignorant Westerners that Islam reveres Jesus Christ, despite the fact that it vehemently denies his divinity. Fortunately, many Christians are becoming aware that while we must unconditionally forgive, there comes a time when we also have to drive out the wolves from the flock. When a 25-year-old Gambian native, who remains unnamed, made his way into Italy, he was greeted with open arms by the Christian majority. In keeping with their biblical example, Jesus Christ, the conservative nation gave the Muslim man shelter, food, and love. Sadly, even this wasn't enough to prompt him to return such tolerance. Like many of the Muslim migrants in Europe, he had prepared to use his migration to spread Islam as the Quran commands. While strolling past Our Lady of the Rosary Parish in Foggia on January 2, the asylum seeker was enraged at the thought of people being allowed to worship a God other than Allah and decided to carry out his Islamic duty. Il Giornale reports that the migrant began ferociously smashing the church's property, setting fire to the infant Christ's manger crib, and shattering the glass containing a depiction of Mary, Mother of God. When police arrested the migrant, he declared that he is Muslim and must, therefore, destroy Christian symbols which are considered blasphemous under Sharia law. Fortunately, the court decided that if the Muslim migrant so desperately desired to live in a land without Christian symbols, he could go back to Gambia where the 97% Muslim majority has virtually wiped out religious diversity. Thusly, the judge sentenced the migrant to several months in prison and deportation, which was just recently carried out, according to L'. Incredibly, the parish priest summoned a lion-hearted response when he heard the migrants' rampage. The priest reportedly sprung into action, preventing the Muslim from torching other areas of the church grounds and breaking through the display. He managed to hold back the migrant until police arrived, saving his church from what could have been a more devastating arson attack. While the sentence is appropriate, it is virtually unheard of in European courts. In cases of violent sexual assault against women and children, migrants are hardly ever given more than a few years in prison. In fact, they often escape with probation if they simply claim to be minors, even if the Migration Board provides the court with documents proving they are adults. In cases of child marriage, which should include charges of child rape, Muslim migrants are protected by the immigration services while the child victims are forced to stay with their adult husbands. Of course, this Muslim's religious intolerance represents Islam and mimics the modeling of its perfect man, the Prophet Muhammad. The Quran states in 48 hours 29 minutes that Muslims are to be severe against the unbelievers and merciful to one another, which is nothing short of religious intolerance. The Quran adds that Muslims are to first focus their slaughter on the polytheists until they are wiped out before turning their wrath on the Christians and Jews. Verse 929 states that the proper treatment of Christians and Jews whom they've allowed to live is to force them to pay jizya, the burdensome religious tax, and make them feel subdued. Of course, feeling the suppression and torment is meant to pressure the few non-Muslims to convert to Islam.